Our main story tonight concerns sports, the greatest activity you can do with balls after my favourite activity, reading. That's right, reading with my eyeballs, the balls of the eye, reading. I love to read pornography. Specifically, we're going to talk about sports betting, picking winners and losers. Even animals can do it, like in this video from the Audubon Zoo featuring Super Bowl picks from a penguin, an aardvark, and even this giraffe who correctly picks the Eagles to win. And that wasn't just random, by the way, because immediately afterwards it used its hoof to write in the dirt, Chiefs are playing a guard at left tackle and are relying way too heavily on the blitz. So it knew what it was doing. But sports betting is clearly not just for animals anymore, as you've no doubt been reminded by approximately 10 million ads.
You want to make every game interesting? Step one, open the BetMGM Sportsbook.
I'm loving the live betting on DraftKings.
Hey guys, ESPN Bet is here. Finally, a sports book from your favorite sports brand.
We are all season! Only from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Yeah, those ads are everywhere, and they feature every imaginable scenario, from Jamie Foxx in what in any other circumstance would be a pretty great R&B video, to America's whitest little brother talking to himself in a mirror. And you're not crazy for thinking those ads are inescapable. Sports betting companies spent over $430 million on national TV ads last year, and they can do that because this is now a massive industry. We talked a bit about sports betting back in 2015, and at the time, we focused on fantasy sports websites and their efforts to circumvent anti-gambling laws. But since then, 38 states have legalised sports gambling, and currently 30 states and DC allow some form of online betting accessibility. In fact, between 2018 and 2023, nearly $300 billion has been wagered on sports gambling markets. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you gambling is bad. It kind of is, but I'm not going to tell you that. Gambling is also fun, especially if you're good at it, which no one is, but it is fun. Playing poker with your friends, taking part in an office March Madness bracket, even taking a weekend trip to Vegas. For most people, these can be fun, generally harmless things, but they also tend to be time or location dependent. The thing is, with modern betting apps, you can gamble all the time on just about anything, and people do, as this local news story from Oregon shows.
Last year, Oregonians wagered $57 million on table tennis, making it the fourth largest draw for sports gamblers, behind professional basketball, football, and baseball.
To give you an idea of how prevalent this is, right now in Poland, which is, I believe, 10 hours ahead of us, there are 3 different live matches going on.
Unlike other sports, there's always action. Matches don't last long, and in-game betting lines change fast. One of the biggest bets, February of last year. In the wee hours of the morning, a sports bettor in Oregon put down $35,000 on this match in Poland between 2 relatively unknown players in an empty gym.
This is like the crack cocaine of sports gambling.
Well, that is never a great sign. No one ever uses crack cocaine to describe something positively. What more could you say about Diane? She's the first teacher in the doors every morning and the last to leave at night. She genuinely cares about her students. She's basically the crack cocaine of the science department, and that is why she's our Teacher of the Year. Get up here, Diane. Our students would do literally anything for you. Now, unsurprisingly, the rise of online sports betting has been found to correlate with a rise in gambling harms, with one study showing that in states that allowed it, there was a 28% increase in bankruptcies, translating to about 100,000 extra bankruptcies a year. And given we're about to enter March Madness, one of the single biggest gambling events of the year, when over $3 billion is expected to be wagered, we thought tonight it might be a good time to look at sports betting and ask a few things: how it became so ubiquitous, why it can be so damaging, and what fixes might be possible. And let's start with the fact that until fairly recently, sports leagues took great pains to distance themselves from gambling, even forbidding Las Vegas from having its own sports team. In fact, in 2003, Vegas simply tried to buy a tourism ad during the Super Bowl, but the NFL rejected it on the grounds that the NFL has a long-standing policy that prohibits the acceptance of any message that makes reference to or mention of sports betting, successfully solving the one problematic thing about the NFL. The shift from that point to where we are now happened both gradually and then all at once. First, there were the rise of those fantasy sports sites like DraftKings and FanDuel, and then in 2018, this happened.
Now sports betting won't stay in Vegas. The Supreme Court today struck down a federal law that required most states to ban it. The 6-3 ruling declared the federal law unconstitutional, a violation of states' rights. The ruling opens the door to an explosion in betting on pro and college games of all kinds.
OK, first, from now on, all Supreme Court rulings should be announced like that, like a detective spreading out the blurry headshots of suspects on his desk. And while most of those faces in the concurrence make sense, Elena Kagan is a bit of a surprise, although, and I'm not saying this has anything to do with it, she apparently plays basketball on a court in the Supreme Court building and has, and I quote, a devastating layup and jump shot. Cases come and go, but ball is life. The point is, that ruling left it up to each state whether to legalise sports betting, and those fancy sports companies were suddenly incredibly well positioned to mount lobbying efforts to get it passed. And they weren't alone in that. Some team owners were on boards too. Here's the owner of the Washington Capitals and Wizards making the case for sports betting being legalised.
Let's bring these dollars into the sunlight. Let's let it be regulated. Let's let it be taxed. Let's use it for the good instead of calling it gambling and gaming and giving it a bad name.
Wait, what? I mean, I get the let's do it legally and tax it and everything, but for the record, people call it gambling and gaming because that is what it is. You want to rename sports betting? To what exactly? Fun with numbers and screens? Banks and balls? Max? That last one is kind of taken, but I know a guy who's probably willing to sell it to you. Now, in that owner's particular case, his interest may have had something to do with the fact that the Wizards are an absolutely terrible basketball team. And a good way to get people to keep watching teams, even bad ones, is by letting them put money on games, as the commissioner of the NBA openly admitted.
The data is clear that if somebody has a bet on a game, even a small bet, they're much more likely to engage in that match. They're much more likely to watch it. They're more likely to watch it for more minutes. They're more likely to be interested in the participants and to follow the sport. So there's no doubt there's a business component to this.
He's right. Patrick Stewart's tether is completely right. People will always be more engaged if they have a vested personal connection in what they're watching, whether that's someone who studies a game more carefully because they've got money on the line, or a person who is more invested in a school play because their child is in it, all the way up to the most involved spectator, a parent who somehow has money on the outcome of their kid's school play. You put $20 on the Shrek musical? You put it on Shrek to lose? Buddy, seek help. Allowing gambling was a big win for sports leagues, who not only benefited from increased fan engagement, they also got to enter into lucrative licensing deals. The NFL alone made $132 million last year from gambling-related sponsorships. That is the equivalent of adding 2 to 3 NFL teams and their sponsorship revenues to the league. And it doesn't even count the additional $120 million a year the NFL gets from licensing their data to sportsbooks to help set odds. The influence of these companies on sports now is just unmistakable, and it is not just the ads. Logos of the companies are on the field, or on the floor, on the uniforms, and even on whatever the fuck those ice scrapers are called at hockey games. There are also sports books now built on the premises of Wrigley Field and other venues. And if you go to an Eagles game, gambling QR codes are displayed on scoreboards, allowing you to make instant bets on the next play without leaving your seats, which, let me be clear, I do not think is a good idea in sports arenas, but I would welcome it in restaurants, so I can scan a QR code on the menu and place a bet on daughter or girlfriend. When an old rich guy comes in with a much younger woman, OK, let me see. Same hair colour, she's wearing sensible flats and she's cutting his steak for him. OK, I'm going to go all in on daughter. Fuck! Fuck! Oh, fuck! And it doesn't stop there. Broadcasters have got really comfortable with folding betting content directly into their programming.
A look at our FanDuel live lines. The spread at 13.5.
The over-under for the Dodgers at 103.5.
Here's a look at the pregame odds for first period total goals, and tonight that line was set at 1.5.
It is time for the Big Game Playbook, brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Our betting expert, Aaron Dolan, is here. So, Aaron, we are going to pick wagers. You'll have one, I'll have one, Rex will have one. That'll be our parlay.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear from the betting expert before a game. I want the integrity of the broadcast to be maintained right up until the moment we get to see a breakfast pastry descending into a giant toaster and accepting its own death before emerging from it only to be horrifyingly devoured by the victorious team. That is what I want from serious sports broadcasts, and to its credit, the Pop-Tart Bowl gave it to me. The point is, the predictions of the most optimistic team owners clearly came true. Instead of gambling happening in the shadows, it is now firmly above ground, and they're getting to profit massively from it. But crucially, the fact it's now available through apps on your phone has fundamentally changed the nature of betting in some very key ways.
For decades, sports betting was limited to betting on just the games. Who would win, how many points the team would score, who will cover the spread. In-game betting allows the user to bet throughout the game.
This is advertised at you the whole game long. It keeps you thinking about betting and involved in betting throughout the game. And if your bet loses mid-game, then you're pitched another bet to try to recoup your losses.
It's true, you can be constantly nudged to bet on everything from who'll score the next point to what colour the Gatorade they pour on the coach will be. And look, insofar as any gambling requires skill, picking Gatorade colours really doesn't. You're not a brilliant strategist, you just got lucky and chose orange. It's the skill of a giraffe picking a Super Bowl winner without the sexual tension. Respectfully, that's a lot of neck what goes on there. Disrespectfully, what those little horns do. Apps also heavily push more complicated types of bets to customers, like parlays, where multiple different things have to happen for a bet to pay off. For instance, you might bet that the Warriors will win, Steph Curry will score 30, Draymond will get at least 1 3, and GP2 will be dressed like the basketball Hamburglar. If all 4 of those things happen, you win big, but if only 3 hit, you lose your whole bet. People love parlays because there is a chance they might pay off huge. Companies love parlays because they generally don't. Experienced gamblers actually call parlays sucker bets because of just how seldom they pay off. In fact, one study of 3 states with legalised gambling found that while parlays made up just over a quarter of all money wagered, they make up over half these companies' revenues. And what that means is ordinary people are getting exposed to extreme levels of gambling they might never have otherwise encountered. And it's now especially popular among young men like this guy.
Chance Bulmer is in his last year at the University of North Carolina studying business.
And today's the first day of March Madness. How many bets did you have today?
A lot. I used all the promos today, so I don't know, maybe 10, 12 parlays.
How important is it that you can do this through a phone as opposed to going to a sports book?
It definitely makes me a lot more inclined if I can do it from like my phone or laptop than like physically going somewhere to place the bet.
How many times have you actually gone and placed a sports bet somewhere?
Maybe never.
Right. Chance Bulmer was never going to physically go somewhere and bet in person. How would he when he'd have to first find his keys? Just based on Chance's general vibe, he has no idea where his keys are. Did he leave them at Brian F's dorm or Mike P's apartment or while chilling at Brian M's house? There's no way of Chance knowing where those keys are. But the promos he mentioned there can be appealing. A lot of these sites offer free money if you sign up, although you should know they have tons of fine print. A lawsuit in Massachusetts alleges that a DraftKings offer of a $1,000 bonus was only redeemable if a customer were to deposit 5 times that amount and then within 90 days place $25,000 in bets. And that's not the only way young gamblers can get reeled in, because while some states don't allow people to sign up for sportsbooks until they are 21, there are apps specifically designed to get around that.
I'm very excited about March Madness.
19-year-old Chase Lavasser loves sports. He's too young legally to gamble in his home state of Massachusetts, but he gets a fix with his friends on Fliff.
You're using a fake currency that you turn back into cash if you win, hopefully.
Fliff advertises as free to play, though there's an opportunity to buy Fliff coins and potentially win cash. It's a sweepstakes model that skirts most states' gambling regulations. Age limit, 18 and older.
Yeah, it's not gambling. It's a social, free-to-play sweepstakes with microtransactions that pay out real cash if you win. Available to teens when their brains are the most impressionable. What could possibly go wrong there? Also, for what it's worth, Fliff might be one of the most upsetting words I have ever heard. It sounds like either one of the most innocent things imaginable, like a helpful cartoon chipmunk, or that little bit of flour that's on top of freshly baked bread, or something so disgusting it has its own Pornhub page with videos like stepmom Jessica Shine gets fliffed by personal trainer and his college advisor Rod Steele. But But whether you are wagering money or fliff bucks that can become money, sports betting can completely change your relationship to the sport that you are watching. And that is something that is not lost on professional athletes, who can get a lot of gambling-related abuse online, as NBA player Tyrese Halliburton points out.
I mean, if I were to look at my mentions right now, I'm sure the majority of them are about me fucking up somebody's parlay. I mean, LeBron. More than likely, you know, if I have a good game, it's just like, yeah, you're supposed to. If you have a bad game, it's like, why'd you fuck up my parlay? It's like, I'm sorry, John.
Right. I can see why that would be annoying. Even when you do your job right, people just jump into mentions with aggressive complaints, whether it's fans yelling nonsense at Tyrese over their stupid parlays, or viewers in my mentions saying ridiculous things like, talk slower, or for God's sake, take a breath, or, hi John, no idea if you'll read this, but I'm a speech psychologist and what you're displaying is very likely something called pressured speech. And it might be nothing, but it's also something linked to hypomania, ADHD and bipolar disorder. Please consider seeing a specialist, I'm begging you. Not a fan of the show, just concerned. You know, just annoying nonsense bullshit that superstars like Tyrese and me have to put up with. And all this gets especially grim when you realise it's possible to bet on college players too. That's about to happen a lot over the next month, especially because universities are now partnering with betting companies in exchange for millions of dollars. And while superstars like Tyrese and me can see random negative comments about our performance and shrug them off with our athletic builds and toned shoulders, it is harder for student athletes to deal with harassment that may be coming from their own classmates. In Ohio, there have been reports of athletes getting Venmo requests from their peers when they lost a game or didn't make a free throw. And others have received horrible messages like, you deserve to get unalive for blowing my bet, and I hope your dog gets cancer. And look, I don't care who you are or what the circumstances, you should never, ever hope a dog gets cancer. Every dog is a good dog who should not have cancer. Now, a cat? I mean, also no, right? Of course. Mostly no. It sort of depends on the cat, doesn't it? For example, this one, obviously not. That cat shouldn't get cancer. That's clearly a good kitty, no cancer for you. Absolutely not. Who could think such a thing? Hard no again. Absolutely not. In no world should that cat have cancer. Listen. The point is, that message is clearly awful. But it's not just young athletes who are having their lives turned upside down by these apps, it's the people who use them too. So, let's talk about the damage here, because even studies funded by the gaming industry show that about 1% of US adults have a severe gambling problem and 2 to 3% have a mild or moderate problem. Those might feel like small percentages to you, but it's worth remembering that amounts to somewhere between 7.5 million and 10.5 million people. Basically a population less than Michigan, but more than Tennessee. And that's not a tragic side effect of this industry. It is baked into the business model here. The people who lose the most money gambling are the lifeblood of these apps, as this expert explains.
86% of online gambling profits come from 5% of the gamblers. The gambling industry business model, whether it's state lotteries, regional casinos, online gambling operators, it's based on the addicted gambler. The purpose of the industry is to get you to play to extinction. And that means until all your money is gone.
Look, getting you to play till extinction is clearly awful, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention you're not seeing double there. That is a different bald guy in tiny little glasses. This story is essentially populated with dudes named Chase or Chance and guys who look like they should be developing a machine to locate the X-Men. I'm just saying, if you had the over on this episode, will feature an interview with more than one bespectacled Bezos clone. Congratulations, you've won 10,000 jizzle coins. They're like fliff bucks, but even more sexual. And betting until all your money's gone can be scarily easy to do when the casino is literally inside your pocket. As one expert put it, you put the most addictive behaviour on the most addictive device. What could go wrong? Just listen to this man who started gambling in college.
You know, every deadline I set for myself, you know, I'll stop betting when I turn 21. I mean, that was a joke. Stop betting when I graduate college. Stop betting when I start working. Stop betting when I turn 22. I blew through every deadline.
How did it affect your relationships?
I would be visiting my girlfriend and I would just go in with my phone, sit on the toilet, rattle off 10 bets. All of a sudden, my girlfriend doesn't know I have $2,000 in betting risk. Those moments, I would think to myself in the corner of my brain, like, am I a sociopath?
Yeah, that is rough. The only thing any guy should be doing on their phone in the bathroom at their girlfriend's house is frantically Googling, what is Summer House Bravo? Help, how do I talk to her best friends and seem cool? Reddit. But unfortunately, that behaviour is exactly what makes someone like him a valued customer. And apps even have ways to turbocharge that behaviour. They'll throw perks at big spenders or even match them up with a VIP host, a contact who will track their habits, interests and spending in real time and reach out with action they just can't miss. They'll also give out tickets to sporting events and send gifts. One lawyer that we talked to told us about a man who was addicted to gambling, and at one point DraftKings sent him this box, which when it opened glowed with a green light and revealed a crown with a message, "The crown is yours." And it is wild to be sent something essentially saying, "Congratulations, you just lost a bunch of money, here is a hat about it." And it's not just bejeweled headwear. One woman sued DraftKings alleging its VIP tactics led her to lose about $153,000 in 4 months. Even as she was realising how deep in trouble she was getting, DraftKings was sending her perks like tickets to a Steelers game. She actually took her son along to that game, leading to a pretty awkward conversation.
At the game, her son noticed that something wasn't right.
And I told him, oh, it's from work. And he said, I didn't see any of your coworkers here. And I heard a lot of people talking about gambling and DraftKings. He's like, did you get this because you use the DraftKings app, Mom? Like, this is coming from at the time he was 12. Yeah.
And so what'd you tell him?
I was completely honest with him and I said yes, and Mommy's gonna stop using that app.
Yeah, that's not ideal, is it? Kids at a football game should not be questioning if they are only there because of their parents' gambling addiction. They should be doing what any kid does there, trying to get on the Jumbotron by waving their arms around like an inflatable flappy guy at a car dealership. Let kids be a lot. And it gets worse, though, because despite her best efforts, she didn't manage to stop using that app. According to her lawsuit, at one point she realised she was about to miss a mortgage payment and emailed her VIP host to ask if DraftKings gave out loans for that sort of thing, saying, probably means I need to quit gambling soon. He initially wrote back saying, I want to check in with you. Are you still playing within your means/budget? But when she didn't reply over the next week, DraftKings allegedly sent 6 emails with enticements to gamble. And she says when she finally sent her host a one-sentence reply reading, I am playing within my means, he sent her $250 in credit to, quote, get you back in action. And the thing is, it's not like these sites can't stop someone from gambling or slow them down if they want to. It is widely known many US sportsbook operators boost profits by weeding out winning customers. And sometimes they'll even try and claw back winnings. Take this man. He placed $3,000 worth of bets on a Women's World Cup game that BetMGM was offering at 66-1. And I'll let him take it from there.
I ended up winning over $200,000. Here's 6:45 in the morning where my bets won and the money was paid out into my account.
He began the process to first withdraw the maximum amount of $100,000 the next morning. But when he checked the app a few hours later,
I looked at my account again and I saw that my balance was zero. They had canceled my withdrawal. They had rescinded all of the winnings.
After a couple of calls to BetMGM, Benton received this email from the company's online gaming operations team, saying it sincerely apologized for the inconvenience, calling what happened an obvious error, meaning they voided the wagers because the odds were clearly incorrect.
That is obviously infuriating, but the most insulting part might be the company apologising for the inconvenience. Stubbing your toe is an inconvenience. Getting stuck in traffic is an inconvenience. Having $200,000 grabbed back from you feels fucking criminal. And while BetMGM did end up paying that man, they only did that after he went to the media. The point is, the data collection that lets these companies weed out successful customers could presumably help them identify those with addiction problems and direct them to help. This man, a recovering addict, took advantage of the UK's public information laws to access the data that Flutter, the parent company of FanDuel, kept on one gambler there, and he was startled by how much it revealed.
On this particular one, he played slots for 3 to 4 days straight. They knew the life stage, the customer life stage he was at, so win back, they described it. So people that have given up gambling for a while and they're trying to get them to come back. There's also like 2,514 deposits in a year, which is about 7 a day.
So these gambling companies that know when we're most impetuous, that there's reams and reams of data on us. What kind of match is that for the adolescent male?
It's not a fair, exactly, it's not a fair wager.
Do they have enough data to pinpoint potential problem gamblers?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, they know the people that are addicted.
Yeah, it should be pretty obvious someone doing 7 deposits a day is addicted. Anyone doing anything on an app 7 times a day deserves a check-in. If you post more than 7 Instagram stories a day and you're not in Barbados or at the Cowboy Carter tour, Instagram should hold an intervention. And that is the thing. Every part of this system is set up to reel gamblers in and then keep them playing. And the whole sports ecosystem is now suffused with it, from the ads to the games themselves to even that journalist who, in a good piece about the problems of sports gambling, at one point had to make this disclaimer.
Full disclosure, when I work at the Tennis Channel, I sit here.
The DraftKings Fund, download the app.
That has got to be a demoralising thing to have to do. It'd be like if I told you after all these years that I've been sitting behind a desk sponsored by the Sackler family. It would make you question some things. The point here is, it seems everyone in the sports world has now become compromised by an industry that is able to prey on its most vulnerable customers with incredible precision. And when you know all of this, you start to understand where this woman, a member of a Gamblers Anonymous group, is coming from when she talks about feeling like a target.
When you don't go to your drug dealer, he doesn't usually show up and knock on the door and say, hey, psst, do you need something? You know, and that's what they do. Where is the concern for that person? I mean, I understand it's a business, right? But with drugs, they held doctors accountable for prescriptions of opioids. With bars, they've held bartenders and restaurant owners accountable for over-serving a patron. I'm accountable 100% for being an addict and falling into the path and losing my way. I'm responsible for that. But I'm not the only one that's responsible.
Exactly. I've got to say, it is notable that you've seen a bunch of people in this story take accountability for their gambling habits. But I'm yet to see a single team owner, TV exec, or gambling app CEO say, you know what, this might actually be our bad too. So what do we do here? Well, I am not saying sports betting should be banned completely. It was around before it was legal, and even if you criminalise it, it'll just keep going. But it shouldn't be this easy to lose this much. And the thing is, some states have laws in place, they just don't enforce them. For instance, in Iowa and Tennessee, sports betting companies allowed gamblers to put money into their accounts with credit cards, even though the state had outlawed that. And in Indiana, dozens of people who had enrolled in a state program to block themselves from betting were nonetheless able to wager hundreds of thousands of dollars. So states merely enforcing the laws they have would be a good start, but we clearly need new ones too. For instance, we could eliminate in-game prop betting on college sports so that student athletes are less likely to be sent wishes for their dog's death just because they missed a free throw. We could also restrict things like VIP programs. The UK actually did that in 2020, requiring companies to do things like check on whether gamblers could afford the amounts they were betting, and regulators have since reported a 90% reduction in the number of customers in VIP programs, suggesting these programs are preying on people who cannot afford to be a part of them. Honestly, it feels like years from now, we're going to look back on this era and say, what were we doing? I mean, about a lot of things, generally, but in this case in particular. And we can change the trajectory here. We did it with cigarette advertising. Anchors used to smoke and advertise cigarettes on TV, but once we saw the harm they did, we put limits on what the tobacco industry was allowed to do, and we made people more aware of the risks. And I would argue we should, at the very least, have some of the same advertising restrictions on these apps that we've put on cigarettes. And until that time, those ads should have to be much more reflective of what these companies actually do to people.
You want to make every game interesting? Step 1, open the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Step 2, throw some skin in the game. Then step 3, showtime, baby!
With DraftKings, I can bet on all my favorite sports. Football, basketball, Polish ping pong, literally. Any waking second that I am physically able to, I can gamble on something somewhere in the world that calls itself a sport.
With DraftKings, every month can be madness. You can bet on Swedish basketball, marble racing, Twister. Yeah, the game Twister.
I just bet on some sport in Serbia that I don't even understand. Apparently, it involves 2 men who slap the shit out of each other with cold, uncooked salmon. The whole thing lasts 19 rounds. And you see that guy right there? He's got a gun. And it's loaded, and that's part of it.
And you're not just betting the final score, you can bet on everything. I'm talking touchdowns, TKOs, RBIs, rebounds, balks, bullseyes, submissions, king me's. It's all part of the action, baby.
All I needed was for the Knicks to beat the Sixers by no less than 3 points, but no more than 7. For 6 specific players to get more than 10 rebounds, for Karl Anthony Towns to break his ankle, for the stadium to run out of pretzels in the third quarter, 6 total kisses on the kiss cam, and for one of the refs to be Asian.
What?
That's the thing. You can bet on everything. Look, if it had all happened, I would have made $14 million.
Did you?
No.
And what did not making $14 million cost us?
Can you really put a price on hope?
I can put a price on our mortgage. Was the number close to that?
It was. It was 2 of that number.
Oh my God.
You'll get them next time. Because with Griff Kings, anyone could be a winner.
I was a winner.
Oh, you see?
I won over 200K on one game. I mean, it was a glitch and I never got it. But hey, in the meantime, Griff King says I can get $15 in non-refundable tokens as long as I spend $15,000 more in the next 10 business days.
When you're betting on your favorite sports, it just makes it mean more.
Oh, yeah, it does. I'm a massive Philadelphia Eagles fan, so the fact that they won the Super Bowl is huge for me. Did the wrong player score the touchdowns and did they not cover the spread? And was my car repoed as a result of such actions? Yes, but, you know, fucking go Birds.
When they send me some of these bets, it's like they know exactly which one I'm gonna take.
We do. We know everything about you. Your favorite sports, time you sleep, when your direct deposit hits.
Hang on, what?
But don't think about that.
Okay.
I'm a VIP. They roll out the red carpet for me.
That is bad. That is a decidedly bad thing.
They treat me like a winner.
Yeah, only because you lose so much. You're a loser.
Would a loser have been sent this crown?
Yeah, absolutely a loser would have that child-sized crown.
This is cool. VIP shit. King shit.
Bet everything with Griff Kings. Think you'd be able to stop at any time? We'll take that bet.
I don't know why it's so funny. I'm drowning in debt.